If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today.
It's a lie. There was no reason to lock everyone in their house. More people died from missed cancer appointments than anyone ever died of COVID. People always got the sniffles before COVID, and they've always got it since. Let me ask you a question.
Hang on,
sir.
it wasn't.
Where has COVID gone?
It wasn't.
Diseases don't go.
So the Matrix wants everybody in their house. See, here's another thing. One, he says that the Matrix wants us to be good workers, right? Who don't ask questions and don't express anything, who just go off, do their bidding for them. The work, the wars, that's what we need to do. He says that, but then he'll also say that the Matrix did COVID? Is he aware that the economy was screwed because of COVID? Because of lockdowns? How is that the Matrix? If the Matrix wants us all to be good workers, why would they simultaneously then want everybody not working? Like, does anyone else notice this obvious contradiction? He doesn't know what the Matrix is. The Matrix to him is the spooky anything that scares me that I don't like. The Matrix to him is like the devil to a Christian. It's just anything they don't like, anything that kind of hurts their tummy, oh, that's the devil. And anything they do like, that's good. For him, anything he doesn't like, it's just the Matrix. So Andrew Tate, 5 days ago, had an interview with Piers Morgan. Do I dare need to make the reference again? Yeah, Andrew Tate is like herpes. Right when you think it's finally gone, it comes back.
Andrew, it's been nearly a year.
He also noted that I am an
since
and I should go.
we last sat down together. Very different time. It was in my London studio, and 8 days after that, you got arrested. What's the year been like for you?
Based.
It's certainly been an interesting one.
That's a joke, okay. I have always been of the opinion that until there is some kind of a conclusive verdict made, that I would rather just kind of observe and not give any hard hitting like, yes, this definitely happened, yes, he's definitely guilty, because I don't know right now. And I'd rather be safe than sorry. I think that's a good mindset that more people should adapt, embrace at least, when it comes to this kind of thing, when it comes to not jumping to conclusions too quickly.
I've been constrained this entire year. I spent 93 days in a Romanian dungeon, 5 months locked in my house, and now I'm restrained within the country of Romania. So it's certainly been a turbulent time.
The moment you got arrested, it was all pretty dramatic. The video came out, the world saw it, a lot of people smashing into your home. Did you have any inkling, warning that something like this may happen?
I knew it. I kept saying before I was arrested on every single podcast I did, I said, you get 3 lives in the world. The first life, they're going to cancel you. They're going to slander you. They're going to delete your access to social media so you can't defend yourself. The second life, they're going to try and put you in jail for no reason. And if you continue to speak against the power, they're going to assassinate you. I knew I was on my second life. I kept saying it. I knew it was coming. I didn't know the bullshit reason they'd use, but I found out once I was in a
I don't even know what to say to this. It's almost like, again, I'm not saying he's guilty, but the way it comes across is like somebody who's in the middle of, I don't know, like a money laundering scheme. And they're like, let me tell you right now, okay? The powers that be are going to falsely accuse me of money laundering. I'm able to predict this because I'm in my second life. Metaphor, no metaphor, it's stupid.
When you were arrested, you didn't speak any Romanian.
Zero.
And they didn't speak English to you.
Correct.
So you were taken to a cell. You had no idea what they were alleging you'd done.
I was arrested on the 27th of December, so because of Christmas and New Year's and other problems, they couldn't even translate my paperwork for 2 weeks. I was given papers in Romanian. I could read human trafficking, I understood, but I was like, human trafficking who, when, what? None of this makes sense. I waited 2 entire weeks inside of my cell before I was given an English translation, and then I realized exactly how ridiculous the whole case was. Just to clarify, I am accused of helping my friends get big on TikTok. That is what I'm accused of. I told some girls I know how to post on TikTok to become viral when I was at the time the most viral person on the planet. And they are saying I'm a human trafficker for that reason. It is insane.
Well, we'll come to what you've been accused of. It's more serious than the way you've categorized it, but we'll come to that. There is a lot of speculation.
Absolutely. It's absolutely more serious than that.
That the reason the Romanian authorities knew that you were back, because you were en route, I believe, to Dubai for a New Year's Eve party, is that you were interacting with Greta Thunberg on social media, and you had a pizza in front of you which came from a well-known Romanian pizza store. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think so. I think that they know where I was. A lot of people knew where I was, and they had instructions from higher up to teach me a lesson. I was on my second life, and that's exactly what I'm going through right now.
There's an irony to your situation because you always said the reason you came
I'm
to
sorry, I just cannot get over it. The indoor sunglasses. I'm just like, oh, my second life, man. I knew it was gonna happen. Okay, like we've constantly been like recycling. Okay, people get mad at me because I don't recycle. Well, my life is recycled. I'm in my second life right now. This is the one I'm gonna get canceled in. Next time, I'm about to get finna murked. Okay, I have no commentary. I only have mockery.
Romania was precisely because you thought you could avoid being in this situation.
Well, I loved Romania, and it's a strong Christian nation with strong traditional values. I want a life where I'm left alone by government. I don't believe in big government. I'm trying to avoid that. It felt like Romania was a place which was very safe societally, and the government was not too interested or involved in people's lives.
Did he not say he wanted to go to Romania because the sexual harassment laws were much more loose over there?
But things change. Also, your freedom and your ability to speak the truth is heavily correlated to your insignificance. When you become large and people start listening to what you say, you soon realize you no longer have freedom of speech, and it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. If they decide you must be assassinated, you will be assassinated.
When are you going to get assassinated? Plot twist, he commits suicide? Like, wait, I don't huh?
Jail. What was that like?
Romanian jail is not English jail.
Describe it. What was the cell like?
I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to insult the Romanian justice system, which I'm still beholden to. However, it's exactly as bad as people would expect it to be. Luckily, it was in the winter, so the cockroaches were not too bad. It was also during Ramadan, so I didn't have to eat so much, which was helpful because of the situation. I think the most stressful thing about it is I had no idea how long I was going to be in there for. I was dragged from my house. I was given papers in Romanian. I didn't know why I was there. I found out why I was there, and it was garbage. I couldn't seem to get out. I could have been held for years. It's very stressful, and the best thing you can do is turn to God and train as hard as possible. I did thousands of push-ups a day every single day.
Were you in solitary in this period, 3 months?
No, I wasn't in solitary the entire time. Sometimes I was by myself, sometimes I was with other guys, and sometimes I was with my brother. So,
when you were on your own, were they keeping you in there for 24 hours a day? Were you allowed out?
No, I wasn't allowed out. There was no yard time. It was 24 hours a day, locked in a single room, probably 3 or 4 steps large, and you do nothing but stare at the wall. And
How many days did you do that for, on your own?
11, 12.
I mean, that's a pretty grim scenario for anyone.
If he's telling the truth there, then that's just inhumane treatment, especially if you have not actually been found guilty yet. If you're just being held for like processing reasons or whatever, that's despicable behavior. I don't care if he's Andrew Tate. I don't care who it is. Like, that's a broken form. That's a bastardized version of quote unquote justice right there.
Life's grim.
For you, always being Mr. Confident, you said, interestingly, that you wouldn't categorize what you were feeling as depression because you don't believe in the concept of depression. You and I have argued about that before. But it sounds to me, from what I've seen you say when you've talked about this, that was pretty close to depression, what you were feeling.
Life's grim. And if you want to be a superhero, you have to understand in every single superhero movie, he is losing for 80% of the movie. He's going to suffer for the majority of the movie before he wins at the end. I've always wanted an exceptional life.
Okay, he's not entirely incorrect about the fact that, yes, there's going to be a struggle before there's going to be success. I am in the process of learning this myself, that success is not static. Success is not something you achieve once and then you have it forever. It is a constant shifting goal, and you need to be okay with failure and with trying again and with learning from your mistakes in order to actually reach your full potential, or at least try. So he's right about that generally, but then he had to make the superhero reference. Can you just not? Listen, I'm telling you right now, okay? You can make a more convincing argument without referencing Batman.
Piers, and I'm not a coward. And I knew that by telling the truth about certain issues, I was going to pay the price for it. So I won't say that I deserve to be in jail, but I certainly put myself in there by telling the truth to the populace and telling the truth and living.
But when you're on your own in that cell, what were you thinking? It's a long time to self-reflect, right?
It certainly is. And I think my number one concern when I was in jail, despite the fact that my situation was dire, were my concerns as a man and all the people I have to take care of, and my children and my family and the people I pay for and all the people who work for me. And truthfully, I wasn't worried about myself, I was worried about everybody else. And I think that's the true masculine frame.
Did you get emotional? Did you shed tears in your cell?
I'm an emotional man.
I like that Piers is pushing him here. Did you cry? Did you maybe piss and shit a little?
I think men are hyper emotional. We just have to control it. I was extremely busy inside of my jail.
That's different. He's been a pretty big proponent of men not having a whole lot of emotions, or not. I mean, I guess he's right about being able to control it, but like, yeah, it's just, I'm surprised to hear him admit that men are in fact incredibly emotional, which is true, by the way. Men tend to think they're more rational, but men actually just go, a lot of the times, and I don't want to paint with broad brushes here. Some men, okay, go about this in ways where they tend to think they're more rational a lot of the times, but it seems as though they're actually just sometimes go with what feels and is intuitively more right, like what seems like it's correct.
I had lots of push-ups to do. I was very concerned about the people on the outside. I was trying my best to get out. It's difficult for me to answer the question because it was an interesting frame of mind. I knew that God was watching and I had to perform. It's very difficult for me to go through life saying I'm the top G, I'm this, I'm that, and speak.
I knew that God was watching and I had to perform. Don't take that out of context, kids.
And then the second I'm thrown inside of a solitary confinement cell, cower out. I'm not that person.
What
There's some other people who talk about mental toughness.
So I don't get this. He said men are really emotional and you have to be able to control it. But now he's saying it's cowering out. If you were put in a cell and it was scary and you were confused and you were crying for the first few days, is that really that? How is that cowardly? What have you done that's actually weak?
And want to give advice, and when bad things happen to them, they end up addicted to prescription drugs. I'm not a coward and I'm not a liar.
No, but it would be perfectly natural to be emotional in that scenario.
And so there was a weird, sudden, random diss at antidepressants, it sounded like? Addicted to prescription? Unless he's talking about like opioids or something, which some people do misuse to treat depression or whatever. You're not really addicted to antidepressants if you're taking like standard antidepressants. Having a dependency on them, so long as that dependency is on something that is benefiting you in the long run, not harming you in the long run, it's not really an addiction the same way that like being addicted to like cocaine would be. You know what I mean, right, Tate?
There's no shame in admitting that.
I was emotional. I missed people. I missed them, and I knew they missed me. So I felt a strong sense of missing.
But you cried.
There were tears that ran down my face, but I did not cry.
I mean,
There was shit that leaked out of my ass, but I did not poop. It's literally what he just said.
crying.
I would disagree.
Because you're worried about admitting that. You think it sounds
Absolutely
weak.
not. That's a perfectly fine scenario to cry in, but I think the act of crying is an act of desperation, to sit and to cry.
This is bullshit. Oh my God, he's just talking out of his ass right now, massively. So to be clear, to be crystal clear, crying actually benefits your body. It allows your body to release emotions and tension and adrenaline. It also causes the brain to release other chemicals as well that actually help calm you down and help bring you back to baseline, back to regulation, okay? So crying is not only an act of desperation, it's actually a rather healthy bodily function that literally occurs as a way for your body to cycle out these complex emotions. So it's honestly, I mean, that would just be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to dealing with your emotions, but it's not that surprising that Tate is this way. If he's feeling this way and he's not letting himself cry, I don't care, I will glue my eyes shut if that's what it takes, then he's going to have a worse outcome. His emotional state, his mental state, is not going to be nearly as good because he's not actually regulating his emotions. He just said that you need to be able to control your emotions. Crying, recognizing a time and a place when that kind of behavior is appropriate and letting your body just like cycle through these emotions and then bring you back to being on your baseline. How is that anything other than controlling your emotions?
To do push-ups, thinking of your children with tears running down your face, but you're concerned with finishing as many push-ups as possible within that day, I do not consider that crying. I consider that tears running down my face.
When you found out what they were...
Okay. So yeah, this is literally like a super unhealthy way to actually go about dealing with emotions. Actually, I have a really interesting study on this. Study participants included 475 people who reportedly lost the capacity to cry and 179 normal control criers. Sounds funny the way they said that. Tearless cases had less connection with others, less empathy, and experienced less social support, but were equal in terms of well-being. So in this case, I think this would be people who literally didn't have the ability to cry, which is a little bit different than not allowing yourself to cry when you can. Over time, repressing your tears can lead to cardiovascular diseases such as hypertension or even cancer. That was the one I was thinking of.
Sexual assault, exploitation, and so on. What did you feel about that? What was your first reaction?
My first reaction was, the standard playbook. The standard playbook for anybody who speaks up against power is sexual exploitation. Isn't that the normal one they go to? Can't we name like 10 or 15 people right now they hit them with this exact same garbage? Name a full-grown man who's 36 or 37 years old who's not had sexual relations with a woman at some point in the past. And the way the Matrix works is they lie by omission, right? They just hit Russell Brand with it.
We're still in the Matrix.
I think they hit P. Diddy with it this morning. Julian Assange just got hit with it. He's still in a cell.
But lots of people get hit with these allegations and it turns out to be true.
A lot of people get hit with them and they turn out to be false. So.
Yeah, but you're sort of trying to make out all the people you just named are innocent. You don't know that.
Of course I don't know that, but a lot of people get hit and it turns out to be false.
Why would you assume they're innocent?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because the way the Matrix operates is it chooses something which is heinous. If they accuse me of drug dealing, nobody would care. They choose something which is heinous, so the process itself is a punishment. So they damage your reputation throughout the process, regardless of whether it's successful or not. Then what they do is they lie.
So notice what he's doing here is appealing to some Matrix crap again, because this guy had too much TV. I think he may have been given too much TV growing up or something. We got superhero movies, The Matrix, The Red Pill. Dude, come up with your own shit. But what he's getting at here is actually a good point. And if you're able to look past his delusional rhetoric, then it actually helps you get to a point in which you can then recognize his true argument, the foundational argument, and then just deal with that. So what he's talking about right now, this is not the Matrix. This is not some evil cabal of all these evil wokies that want to, I don't know, whatever, like, you know, just take people down for telling the truth or testing the powers, like he says. What he's talking about is a actual very legitimate problem, and that is the way that information travels right now allows for people to jump to conclusions, spread their conclusions, and that does damage your reputation. That's true. Because of our increasingly connected world, the minute that one person is accused of something, that news can spread fast. Now, I'm not saying that I'm against social media, because I think that social media and the ability for humans to connect wicked fast is incredibly important, and I think that it's done a lot of good. I also use this and benefit from this thing all the time. So I would be in no position to be saying this is a bad thing, but rather there are good aspects, there are bad aspects. How can we change the bad aspects? What can we do about it? That's what the conversation should be about, not, oh, well, it's probably just like The Matrix, because I saw a movie once, and I'm just going to call it The Matrix. Okay, the end.
Lie by omission. They throw you in a cell and they contact everyone you've ever interacted with. 2,000 people I know were called, and they were looking for one person to say they're a victim. By the way, they failed. They did not even find one. But if they did, they would then say, Andrew Tate's victim, he's a sexual assaulter.
That I genuinely don't know if it's true or not.
And they would remove the testimony of the 1,999 people who said I'm a very nice man. Lie by omission, and then they put together this entire package, use the mainstream media to convince the world that you deserve to be in jail, and that's how the Matrix operates.
I mean,
when you have done something, or if you have done something, to the degree by which they are accusing you, then yeah, your other good deeds kind of do go out the window.
I mean, to be clear, I don't know if you're guilty or not.
I do.
You're perfectly entitled to say that, and you know, right?
Of course I know.
But I don't know, and I will await any trial that comes to see what comes out in the trial and see what happens, right? So I'm not going to prejudge the trial. I'm not going to judge you and say, I think you're guilty. I don't know, right? We are where we are. You've been charged with serious crimes, and it's likely you'll face a trial, and we'll see how that all plays out, obviously. Going back to jail, how are you treated by other people?
Everybody in jail was extremely apologetic to me. All of the staff, the police officers, everyone who worked in the jail, the person who served me my meal, everybody was very sorry for what happened to me. They made it very clear they knew it was garbage. And they were apologetic. That was the only vibe I could give you. They were kind of like, listen, you got too big. I'm sorry. This is how things work.
The jail cook. He let me in on the secret. Now I know the secret Romanian prison scheme. You see, Chef Jerry here, prison cook, actually helped me out. He broke the code.
Nobody had any real problem with me. None of the prisoners had a problem with me.
Did you get into any fights?
There was a couple scenarios where violence could have occurred, but I think once people realize that violence is a certainty and that you do not operate under a fearful realm, they often aren't so interested.
So people threatened you?
I wouldn't say they threatened me, but they would have liked to have got the opportunity to threaten me.
And what happened?
And they realized that would have been a bad decision. And all in all...
Well, what did you say to them? Because you don't speak Romanian, so...
I didn't, you're right. I actually used a quote from Street Fighter.
There's more than one person.
Correct.
And they made it clear what? That they wanted to...
I have to be careful what I say because I'm still beholden to the Romanian judicial system.
Yeah, but that's just an incident in jail. That's
Correct.
nothing to do with the system.
An incident report was written, and it's better I don't mention it.
But there was a direct threat to you.
I've had threats, yeah, and I have threats every single day of my life, and I think jail is a hyper-pressurized version of reality. And you need to have an extremely strong mind so you don't attack yourself, and an extremely strong body so others don't attack you. And I understood that there was a threat of violence at all times, and I just decided to go through life extremely respectfully, but make it clear if that's a decision somebody else wants to make, that I'm prepared to partake.
One of the things I would think about, other than my family, immediate family, but one particular member of my family, if I found myself in jail, would be my mother and what she would be feeling and what she'd be thinking. She's been incredibly supportive to me. I know yours has to you. Did you think about your mother?
I was extremely concerned for her. I was concerned because the media establishment were hounding her. She was obviously very worried, but she knew she raised strong sons. But we're her number one protectors, and I was concerned for her. I wasn't concerned for myself in jail. I didn't even suffer in jail as much as I did when I got out. I didn't have nightmares in jail. I had nightmares once I left jail. I was in the middle of a battle. I don't think you get PTSD while you're fighting. You get it afterwards. I was in the middle of a battle trying to make sure that everybody I love and care about is taken care of and trying to make sure that bills are paid. Please understand, the day I was arrested, which is a year ago, every single bank account that I have was frozen. All of my assets were taken. I haven't had a dollar of money since January.
10 cars taken, I think.
15.
15 cars and how many properties?
15 cars, 6 properties, 20 diamond watches, gold bars, cash, land, every single bank account, millions and millions and
What was
millions
the
of
total
dollars.
value of everything they seized?
16, 17 million?
Pounds?
Yeah. And they took all of it. And I still don't have access to any of these things.
I mean, as we're
Wait, hold on. That'd be $21 million.
as we're doing this interview, you're expecting to hear sometime today as to whether you may get those possessions back. Is it all or nothing? Do you get it all back or nothing?
Correct. As we sit here, the judge is deciding whether I get all of my items returned or I get none of them returned. And truthfully, under the law, I should have never had them taken in the first place. So we're going to see what the judge decides. And I have to put my faith within the Romanian judicial system. I have no other choice. I'm not a coward. I'm not going to run. But let's not talk about the Romanian judicial system. Let's talk about the judicial systems of the world. I've recently seen some very scary decisions in America and England, in these Western democratic nations. You see people doing 20 years for attending peaceful protests. So you start to sit and wonder when you're in these situations, what is a trial? What is a judge? What is this? These are just people in a room.
Which peaceful process are you talking about?
There's been a few. And
Who's got 20 years for attending a...
Which peaceful protest are you referring to? There have been a few. Actually so many that I can't even think of just one.
Peaceful protest?
I don't want to say names. I saw it somewhere on Twitter. Somebody attended, I think it was a protest, a pro-Trump protest, and they ended up getting...
I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, that's definitely not the Matrix.
What if you're talking about the January 6th riots? They were riots where people died.
Well, it's interesting.
They're not peaceful protests.
Well, it's interesting because the world is actually very nuanced. And
Wait,
what I tried...
he was talking about January 6th?
That wasn't nuance. That was a huge mob of
What
people
I tried to do
attacking
is-
the US Capitol.
Well, what I tried to do is I try to look at a broad spectrum of events, and I try to put things into a nuanced view, and I don't try and take a instant black or white point of view on things. And the fact that BLM were rioting and destroying the entire nation for months and during that exact week, and then some other people got together with an opposing political view and are facing serious prison time for doing less damage than BLM did. I find that kind of scary because
people did die.
Well, in a democratic nation, we should all be the same under the law.
But Andrew, just to be clear, on January the 6th, people died.
People died during BLM.
I mean, there are certainly inconsistencies in the way...
See, I wouldn't have gone the route that people died. Like, people died. What was the reason why they died? Like, they're not going to jail because people died. They were going to jail because of the gravitas of the action that they committed. There were also a lot of BLM protesters who got arrested,
Groups of people have been policed. I think that's the same whether you're talking about the BLM marches to the pro-Palestinian marches and so on, right? There's a lot of inconsistency.
Well, then we agree.
There's a lot of inconsistency in global policing, I think. I think that's a perfectly valid thing to say. But the idea that someone's got 20 years for being in a peaceful march is not true. The ones who've got the lengthy prison sentences have been held accountable for serious crimes.
I'm not even condoning January 6th. I don't even know the ins and outs of January 6th. I wasn't there. I'm not saying it should have happened. What I'm saying is exactly what you have said. There seems to be...
Love the backtrack. You see, you have to be very nuanced, okay? I'm not even saying I really support it, okay? I don't even know.
Be some massive inconsistencies in global policing now. So when you end up in a position where you're speaking against the system, as I do, and you understand that there are massive inconsistencies in policing globally...
It's actually really interesting to hear what he just did there. He bullshitted his way to a point where Piers was like, yeah, but January 6th was bad. And he was like, but I'm not actually defending that. Then he repeats the argument that Piers actually just made, that there's inconsistencies with global policing. I don't think that Tate said that. I think Piers was the first one to say that. He then just repeated Piers's argument back to him, saying it as if it was his own argument, and now is back to his exact same dialogue tree. The exact same, you see, I'm against the great powers that be, so they want to lock me up, the Matrix. Like, he kind of just like bullshits his way back to his dialogue tree every time.
You start to sit down and seriously wonder if you stand a fair chance of a fair trial in any country on earth. I actually have to give massive credit to the Romanian judicial system because the judge one day sat down and said, why are these boys in jail, and let us go. I don't know if I would have had a fair shot like that in many other nations.
When you were released from jail after about 3 months, what was that feeling like?
My brother and I were in the same cell at that time. We were extremely happy. I remember using the last of my mouthwash. During the day, I had some rituals to keep me sane, and I'd enjoy one swig of mouthwash a day. It's amazing how bored you get when you're staring at cockroaches, and even that sensation.
So there were literally cockroaches in your cell?
Correct.
How many at any given time?
At night, there was a lot of them.
Like what, dozens or?
Yeah, a few. There was an infestation. We did our best to kill as many as we could.
Did you count them? Give us a number. Was it like 20? Did you see 30? How about 55? 60 going once.
It kept us entertained, but they're annoying to sleep with. But mouthwash was something I enjoyed every day. The sensation of mouthwash made me happy, and I remember using all of my mouthwash. And then instantly, my brain started turning to all of the things I need to do. I'm a man. I have responsibilities. For 93 days, I wasn't working. I started concerning myself with, okay.
It's true. Ah, men. Us men always have responsibilities, unlike women.
I'm about to get out of jail, thank God. I'm going to leave. Who do I need to take care of? What's paid? Do I have any money left? Are bills due? Is mom okay? Are my children okay? And I just started thinking about work. And as soon as I got out, I didn't sleep for 3 days.
How many children do you have?
That's confidential.
Why?
Because I have enemies, and unfortunately,
Yeah, you probably do have enemies. Let me guess, all the kids' baby mamas, right?
I do not want to give them any information.
But you have more than one.
I have more than one, correct?
Right. So obviously you're caring for your children. I understand that as a father, right? And obviously, and you have a partner?
Yes.
Are you married?
No.
I think I asked you last.
What? Oh, man. I bet that girl was really hypergamous.
Last time, and you were a bit cryptic about it. You're not married yet.
No.
You have a partner who's the mother of your children.
Correct.
The same woman is the mother of all your kids?
It's confidential.
It's a bit stupid to say confidential.
It is confidential, Piers. It's
I
confidential.
don't think you marry and have kids with is confidential, surely.
It is for me.
Really?
Of course, I am basically #1 enemy of the state, Piers. Look what they've done to me. What have they put me in jail for? At the beginning of this garbage, people were sitting there thinking, maybe he's a human trafficker. It's been a year. Who? Show me a picture. Show me a video. Who's even a victim? There's nobody. The whole thing is made up.
Well, we're going to come to what they say you've done, right? We're going to come to that. But I'm just curious. You come out of prison. You've got no ability to access any of your assets. How have you been functioning financially since then?
I believe in prayer and I trust in God.
Well, prayer doesn't pay the bills.
And I do my very best.
But prayer doesn't pay the bills.
Unfortunately, absolutely everything I own was seized by the Romanian state, so I'm just going to have to survive and do my very best.
Yeah, but how?
I'm doing my very best, Piers.
Have you got wealthy benefactors helping you?
I'm doing my very best. I wish I had wealthy benefactors. I wish I had people on my side.
Yeah, you can't function on no income at all.
Seems you can.
How?
I'm doing my very best, Piers.
What does that mean?
It means I'm doing my very best. Absolutely everything I own is taken by the Romanian state. I don't have anything they don't have.
How do you pay for food?
I just have to do my best.
What does that mean?
It means that I believe in God and I pray.
Well, God's not going to pay your bills.
God has been paying my bills so far, it seems. It's amazing how far faith can take you. It's often when you have absolutely nothing left, people turn to faith, but you should turn to faith first, and you should believe in God when things are good, and then He will be there when times are bad.
Initially, you were put on this sort of rolling 30 days.
There's actually a phenomena in which I think it's called, there's both manifestation and there's scripting. There are two different types of methods by which you intentionally force yourself to imagine what it would be like to achieve some kind of a goal, right? So like, I don't know, like get food for the day. You imagine this, but you don't just imagine it. It's in the process of imagining this and picturing this happening and thinking how happy you would be and everything that also inspires you, and it literally increases motivation. So it makes it so that you yourself are more likely to take the opportunities, take an avenue that you may have missed before, because you have your mindset, you have your headspace is in the right spot. And this is completely secular. This is completely non-religious. The same thing can be said with God. If you believe that an all-knowing entity is going to take care of you, how is that not going to somehow, how is that at least not going to inspire you a little bit? How is that not going to make you feel a little more motivated? Then every avenue you get, well, God gave that to me. Really, it's because of the belief that you have put yourself in this headspace in which you might be more likely to take opportunities or notice opportunities that you may have missed when times were a lot better. So his whole thing, like faith takes you really far. You could do this outside of God also.
You said earlier, who are these women? Well, there are 7 named in the indictment.
Yeah, have you seen the videos of them on the internet saying we're not victims? They made us be victims. We told them
Well,
we
that
were
will all
victims.
presumably be analysed in a trial. Do you know when the trial may be?
I have no idea. It's going to
Do you believe it will happen?
I'm not sure. It could get to a point where a judge, anytime before the trial, decides this case is garbage and throws it away. If you ask me what I believe happened, it's very simple. They threw me in a jail cell knowing they had no case, knowing they had no victims, but they thought they plaster me all over the MSM and they say that I'm a bad person and they call enough people, they will find the case they want. They couldn't find it. You name the date they charged me. They had 6 months to charge me. Usually,
I mean, hey, sounds like the Romanian government, according to you, really wanted to take you down. It's amazing how far faith can take you.
The Romanian state, even the American embassy confirms to me, charges within 30 days. With me, they used all 6 months trying to build a case and find actual victims of an actual crime. They couldn't. They charged me on the very last possible day they could, unless they'd have to drop the entire case. And they charged me with garbage because they have nothing. There are no victims. I've done nothing wrong. And they've tried very hard. And let me say something very pertinent to the audience here. It's very difficult when you're thrown inside of a jail cell. You do not have access to social media. You do not have access to money. The entire MSM establishment are calling you a bad person. Hotlines are set up saying, if Andrew Tate's ever hurt you, call this hotline. You're a rich person where people may want to get money from you and exploit you and extract resource from you. And they're sitting here calling anyone you've ever known. They called my gardener's daughter, who I've never even spoken to, asking about ever done anything wrong to her or said anything wrong to her, trying to find victims of a crime that don't exist. It's actually a miracle from God that no one's come out trying to extract money from me. Whole thing is garbage. They could do this to anybody. Piers, they could do this to you. They could put you in a cell, put all over the media you're a sexual exploiter, and for 3 months talk about how bad you are when you can't defend yourself, and call everyone you've ever...
I like how earlier he referenced Russell Brand when Russell Brand had a bunch of very damning allegations brought forward against him.
Interacted with. And if anybody you were ever rude to once decides they want a payday or some fame, they can use it against you. It's insane.
The Romanian authorities' prosecution files accuse you of using verbal and physical abuse to keep women in line, taking 50%, I believe, of the women's online income. Although I believe that figure could vary, could be up to...
There's voice memos of him admitting.
Loved how much you hated it. Turned me on. Why am I like that? Why? I am one of the most dangerous men on this planet. Sometimes you forget exactly how lucky you were to get by me. Would you rather me pin you down and make you do things you didn't like, or would you rather you didn't like that I was thinking I can do whatever I want to? That's what it is. I'm the smartest person on this planet. Are you seriously so offended I strangled you a little bit? You didn't pass out. Chill the out. Jesus Christ. I thought you were cool. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we looked this up. This seems a lot more damning than we thought. Wow, that was a highly disturbing voice memo. Andrew Tate fans claim voice messages of him admitting sexual assault were made by an AI. Because he also did admit, he said, I love R-ing you. I don't think there's anything conclusively proving that this is AI. We'll have to wait and see, but that's still really disturbing.
Is that right?
No, they accuse me of exploiting women who did TikTok. The same women who say we were not exploited, he just told us how to do TikTok. Also, in the prosecution file, if you want to talk about it, there's not a single bank transfer. There's not a single piece of evidence for any money. So I'm accused of making money from TikTok, but they haven't found any money. There's no money, and the victims are saying, I didn't exploit them to do TikTok. The whole thing is a joke.
What is, I think, problematic for you is the war room, which was a group
miscategorized and misunderstood.
It was called the war room.
Correct.
Okay. And it had a lot of people who were dubbed the generals who ran the war room
Correct.
for you. And the war room had 500 to 600 members who paid, I think, $6,000+ to be a member of this. And when you saw the logs of the web chats between people from the war room to each other, a lot of it made disturbing reading. Were you disturbed by it when you read that?
Firstly, a lot of that is bullshit. A lot of that's fake. Secondly...
You think that literally those logs are fake?
Absolutely. Secondly...
But the BBC verified them.
The BBC verified them, or they're the same people who verified the vaccine. Those people, they're liars, firstly. A lot of them are fake. Secondly,
were you disturbed by anything?
This is the problem with dealing with people like this. He is unhinged. This, by the way, is the problem. When you convince yourself that everything is the Matrix, you're the only one who knows the real truth, then this is what happens. You literally cannot be confronted with anything that threatens your worldview.
You read?
No, because none of it's real. Firstly. Secondly, there's 4,000 members in the war room. Thirdly, the war room is about masculine personal development. We talk about fitness, making money, strength. We talk about very important things. There's 4,000 members inside. If you're telling me that amongst 4,000 members with 24-hour chat 7 days a week for the last 5 years, they've managed to find 2 guys talking locker room talk, and that somehow offends the world, then nobody understands how the world works. That's not why I was in jail. It's nothing to do with the war room. I was in jail because I spoke against power, because I told the truth about COVID, because I told the truth about the war in Ukraine, because I told the truth about all of these things.
I don't understand why people would want to put you in jail for giving your opinions about COVID or Ukraine. Why would they?
Why wouldn't they?
Well, why would they? Why would they say that Andrew Tate's opinion is so important on Ukraine that we have to put him in jail? I don't buy that.
Okay, because I was the most Googled man on the planet, and I had a huge affinity with the most troublesome demographic for the Matrix, which is the young masculine youth, the people who you need to die in wars, the people who you need to psyop into being slaves to build the roads while telling them that they're not allowed a point of view and they're not allowed an opinion on anything. And I was saying things which was going against the narrative. And the Matrix, the way it operates is it uses the MSM to prepare.
It's funny because he makes it sound as if the Matrix is trying to make young men like good and obedient, ready to be good workers. But yet when Andrew Tate spreads this kind of stuff, this I don't cry. Yeah, maybe like some tears dripped out, but that's not really crying because I'm a man, okay? You need to suppress your emotions. When he says stuff like this, that causes men to have emotional dysregulation. That causes men to feel more isolated. And you know what? When you feel more isolated and more lost, like you have lost your identity, like you don't really know who you are, that is when you are the most vulnerable to fall for extremism, cult-like behavior, even joining certain extremist groups. That is when it is the worst. That is when it's the highest likelihood for something terrible like that to actually occur. So for him to act as though it's the Matrix that wants to make everybody good and obedient, when him teaching men this kind of a mindset that ultimately makes them sad and lonely and lost, that makes those men more likely to fall for other extremism. Or maybe just shut the fuck up and listen to Andrew Tate and start building their identity around him.
Slave programming into people's brains so that we live lives which are not good for us but are good for them. And I was sitting there unplugging it. Why would they sit there and say, we've put together this massive psyop. We're going to convince everybody to inject themselves with poison and we're going to lock everyone in their houses and it's all a lie. And we're going to let this one guy who everyone listens to.
Andrew, it wasn't all a lie.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't. There was a new novel coronavirus. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what the facts were, and you can then laugh at them if you wish.
Sure.
But there was a novel coronavirus, COVID-19. It was killing thousands of people a day.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Scary.
My grandfather died of COVID, by the way. So every time I deal with these types of chuckle, then I get a little extra level of rage.
Yeah, and I know people who died.
Who doesn't? I know people who died before Corona.
Fine, I'm sure people died of lots of things, but it was killing exponentially thousands.
I knew people that died before Corona. Yup. Remember the good old days, man? How before coronavirus people didn't die? Pepperidge Farm doesn't actually remember that.
Thousands of people, and then vaccines were developed at very high speed, and they managed to save, in my estimation, millions of lives. You may not agree with that,
absolutely,
but those are facts.
There have been way better estimations that have found that it did save immense amounts of lives. It absolutely did.
As assumed by the body of scientific and medical experts in the world.
The body of scientific and medical experts? You mean the Matrix? I could get.
What is the Matrix?
The Matrix.
Please, thank you, Piers. Challenge him on this. Anytime he gets challenged on literally anything, he's just the Matrix.
There are a bunch of people who can come up with studies from the sky to say anything they want them to say, so they can use the MSM to purport garbage inside of people's minds.
Come up with studies out of the sky? I don't think that Tate has a very good understanding of how studies work. I don't think he realizes how they work. I don't think he realizes that they give their methodology. You can look at the sample size. You can look at how it's done. You can look at who published it. Studies out of the sky? Okay, well, you know what? I put my faith in SkyDaddy to rain studies down from the sky. You apparently put your faith in SkyDaddy to rain manna down from the sky for you. You and I were not that different, Tate. Just kidding around, obviously. He does not understand how studies are actually collected or actually done.
Locked in your house, clapping for the NHS like a performing seal, injecting yourself with experimental poison for the 9th time.
It wasn't experimental. That is a lie.
It's a lie. There was no reason to lock everyone in their house. More people died from missed cancer appointments than anyone ever died of COVID. People always got this.
That is a complete bullshit. He is literally making stuff up. That is false. At one point, hospitals were so packed because of people with COVID who refused to get the quote-unquote experimental, even though it wasn't experimental, vaccine, that other people were dying from issues unrelated to COVID because they couldn't get treatment in time.
The sniffles before COVID, and they've always got it since. Let me ask you a question.
Hang on, it wasn't.
Where has COVID gone?
It wasn't.
Diseases don't go.
So the Matrix wants everybody in their house. See, here's another thing. One, he says that the Matrix wants us to be good workers, right? Who don't ask questions and don't express anything. Who just go off, do their bidding for them. The work, the wars, that's what we need to do. He says that, but then he'll also say that the Matrix did COVID? Is he aware that the economy was screwed because of COVID? Because of lockdowns? How is that the Matrix? If the Matrix wants us all to be good workers, why would they simultaneously then want everybody not working? Like, does anyone else notice this obvious contradiction? He doesn't know what the Matrix is. The Matrix to him is the spooky anything that scares me that I don't like. The Matrix to him is like the devil to a Christian. It's just anything they don't like, anything that kind of hurts their tummy, oh, that's the devil. And anything they do like, that's good. For him, anything he doesn't like, it's just the Matrix.
Oh, wait.
It wasn't.
Where's COVID
It
gone?
wasn't. Well, the COVID strains have got milder, as indeed flu did. Flu used to
so
kill.
it's gone away now.
Well, flu pandemic in about 100 years ago killed 50 to 100 million people.
I love it. Oh, so it's gone away now. Ugh. It got milder after the vaccine. This is literally what happens, by the way, when you don't understand modern medicine. Tate doesn't know anything. He's stupid. He's probably been kicked in the head one too many times. He has no clue what he's talking about. And this is the result of it.
And it's got steadily milder over the decades since. This is normal medical science pathway for most pandemics, right? So on that, I mean, your sort of cast iron, it was all matrix MSM nonsense, is palpably untrue.
Well, I'll tell you why that's not untrue. Let me tell you my personal experience with COVID. I'm an extremely logical person. At the beginning, when everyone was dying, dropping dead in the streets in China, which I never saw, by the way, funny, and the Italian hospitals were full, English hospitals were never full, funny. Me and my brother sat there and said, if
He's just making this up.
this disease is so deadly and can damage us as strong military-age males, and the world is over. So there's no point in hiding in our house. We decided to go to Sweden. On day one of COVID, day one when everyone still believed, we went to Sweden. Why does no one talk about the fact that Sweden was open the entire time? Why does no one
The reason is because you didn't do your research, Tate, and you bring that up because you think you're getting like a big gotcha on there. But then if you actually look at Sweden, go ahead. I dare you. I dare you. Look up Sweden COVID death rate compared to nearby regions. Go ahead. Please. Please do it. Sweden is gigantic, okay? You had 22,000 COVID deaths. As of January 13th, 2023, in Sweden, the closest was Finland with only 8.4K. Why does nobody talk about Sweden, oi? This is why right here, buddy. Because anybody with half a brain cell who didn't get kicked in the jaw too many times knows that you can just type this in and look. And when you look, you realize that you're lying. You're lying. You're just bullshitting your way around here. It's not like Sweden admitted that they could have done better or anything, right? You guys remember that one too? Hold on. Sweden's prime minister admits the country got its coronavirus strategy wrong. I think that most people in the profession didn't see such a wave in front of them. They talked about different clusters. The Swedish government is drafting emergency legislation to allow lockdowns and business closings. The country had predicted that its no lockdown policy would prevent a so-called second wave. Hospitals in Swedish cities, however, are now running out of intensive care beds.
My brother and I partied in nightclubs 7 days a week for 3 entire months while everyone was locked in their house.
Sweden actually had a number of restrictions.
Not when I was there.
Not
it was open.
Not as draconian as we had in the UK, and there are certainly legitimate questions to ask about the scale of our lockdowns. I think people panicked. They saw what was happening in Italy, which had the second best medical healthcare system in the world, and people were dying in massive numbers and the hospitals were overrun. So people may have panicked.
Did you hear about the guy who died in a motorcycle crash and it was a COVID death? Did you hear about that one?
Well, there was certainly...
Downing Street didn't seem very concerned with
there
COVID.
There was a long debate about people dying of COVID or with COVID. I know all that. But the bottom line for me, it is indisputable that COVID was a deadly pandemic that killed a lot of people. It turned out a lot of older people...
How can he say, by the way, that his court case isn't legitimate? That this trial they're bringing against him, the allegations brought against him are all fake because there are no victims? And now there are millions of victims of COVID, and he's saying that's fake too. Do you notice how selective he is? Now there are millions of victims in this case, and you're still denying it. So it seems as though no matter what happens, what you feel is what you prioritize. And that's your big problem, buddy.
More than young people, but they didn't know that at the time, not for a long period. The vaccine saved millions of people's lives. There are legitimate questions about some of the boosters, about some of the side effects of the vaccines, as there are, by the way, with all vaccines. But the idea that COVID is some invention by the Matrix to suppress and control its people is for the birds, Andrew. It's for the birds.
It seems the birds
and
and
I don't
friends.
think a smart guy like you actually believes that.
Of course I
And that's one of my
absolutely
problems.
believe that.
One of my problems I have with you is that I think you are intelligent, but I think you also adopt positions that you know are going to get the anti-Matrix mob inflamed. And it's just these all-encompassing views you have. COVID was a load of nonsense. Vaccines are all dangerous and killing more people than they say.
Never said that. I said the COVID vaccine.
Well, COVID vaccine, well, you don't think they worked?
No, of course not, because the idea of
course
a
they
vaccine,
worked.
The word vaccine in and of itself is that you
They
get...
saved millions of lives.
If you get a vaccine, you do not get the disease. They changed the definition...
This is all such bullshit. First of all, that's not what a vaccine means. Second of all, they didn't change it because of that. They only updated the terminology to make it more clear so that dumb like you could stop running away or running around, reeing like a chicken with its head cut off, acting as though this is some giant conspiracy. The meaning of vaccine is the same as it was in 1796, regardless of online conspiracy theories. The AP was able to verify through web archives that the language on the CDC page titled Immunization Basics has changed in these ways over time. Pre-2015 was described vaccination as, quote, injection of a killed or weakened infectious organism in order to prevent disease. Another was dated 2015 to 2021 and said the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce immunity to a specific disease. The third was from September 2021, calling vaccination the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection from a specific disease. Okay, so vaccines have never given you 100% immunity. They never have done that, okay? So because of that, this change literally just makes it clearer. It is meant to protect, not necessarily prevent. People hear prevent, they hear 100%. They hear, okay, if I get a vaccine, then I'm never going to get sick. I'm completely fine, nothing to worry about. That's wrong. This update to the definition here is quite basic and only adds clarity. Unless you think that all vaccines are a scam, because no vaccine has been able to offer you 100% immunity or 100% prevention of some kind of a disease. No vaccine has ever done this. He's the one who sees everything through this like distorted lens where like he's ultimately going to be the victim of this all. He's the one living in the matrix.
You got the vaccine for COVID, and you're bragging online how you have COVID for the 8th time, but it's not that bad because you've had 6 injections. It's insane. And please understand my position. Please understand I'm a person who doesn't believe any of these studies, don't believe any of this garbage, don't believe the Matrix. I'm a person who was in Sweden for 3 months, as everyone was afraid, locked in their houses, partying at will, and it was perfectly fine. They had a lower death rate than the UK.
They had a much higher death rate than their neighbouring countries in Scandinavia. Did you know that?
They had a lower death rate than the UK.
Did you know that?
Why would they have a higher or a lower death rate than the UK? The UK and Sweden have among the worst per capita COVID mortality in Europe. I love this so much when they add the context. Thank you so much. He's like, did you know Sweden didn't have lockdowns and they're doing better than the UK? The UK and Sweden were both among the worst performers. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, so desperate. Thank you, everybody, for watching me review the crazy, the lunatic, Andrew Tainstein, who really is insane. He is unhinged.